Church music. What does it sound like? Choir? Pipe organs? Those are okay, but I like this. Now we're not here to listen to some bangers, but it's time for another lore accurate challenge. If you are new to my channel, I like to do lore accurate clears on event reruns to test my skills in Arknights. Spoiler alert, I'm not that good. Today we'll be clearing the main stages of Guiding Ahead using operators that appear in the story, which is shown on screen. The good news is most of them use guns, and that gives us range attacks. The bad news is we only have guns and range attacks. Even more bad news, I'm missing two of the main operators in this story, and coincidentally, they are my main DPS for this challenge. The support unit only allows one operator at a time, and this could be very interesting. If a stage is too hard, I'll fill in the fourth slot with another Laterano operator just to make this challenge actually doable. So buckle up and let's shoot some people. Starting off slow and easy with GA1. So easy in fact that I can clear it with just Executor and Enforcer. Or so I thought. I highly underestimated the difficulty of this challenge. So immediately I promoted both Executor and Enforcer to Elite 2 and recruit Fiametta, hoping that her long-range attacks would outgun the terrorist-looking Pathfinder. The plan worked. However, due to Fiametta's weird talent, she got sent to the Shadow Realm with just one shot. This is inevitable because I chose skill 2 and the charging time is awful. Meanwhile, Executor tanks the big hit from the final Pathfinder and Enforcer is chunky enough to take the couple of hits. GA2 was the point where this challenge became an absolute pain to do. This stage introduced the Pathfinder casters with a special attack that deals burn damage. For my first attempt, I had borrowed Fiametta again from the support unit, but this time her skill 3 is equipped. But I did not realize that her skill 3 only attacks long range.
Are you just firing at random shit? In front. What the fuck?
So my first attempt was a massive failure. Then I spent the next 30 minutes figuring out how to kill the casters effectively. I tried repositioning my operators, but no matter where I place Fiametta, she always gets killed by the casters. I'm gonna piss off some Fiametta fanboys for a second, because from the last 30 minutes, I concluded that Fiametta is not that good of a sniper when deployed without some sort of healing. So I switched to using Mostima, and after some practice runs off camera, I eventually found the one strategy that cleared GA2. By placing Mostima on this tile, she is just out of range of the Pathfinder's caster's range. Executor absorbed all the attacks from the casters coming from the right side, long enough for Mostima to recharge her skill. Mostima's superior range saved herself from getting yeeted into the Shadow Realm.
Oh, finally.
GA3 introduced a new enemy, the Pathfinder Mortar Launcher. These guys are tough. Physical damage does absolutely nothing. So as long as they are present in any of the stages, I would need Mostima to deal with them. Most of my failed attempts were due to me not being able to cover the right side, and I spent about an hour repositioning and trying out many different positions. There were times where I literally couldn't do anything because all of my operators were dead. After several more runs, on and off camera, I could not find a viable solution to GA3 with just 3 operators. Since I can't have both Fiametta and Mostima at the same time, I recruited Arin to provide me with more arch damage and act as a second blocker. After some more offline practice with this setup, I can see that this strategy would work. First, I placed Mostima on the left side facing up to get rid of the big Chungus and retreated her as soon as he was dead, so I could use Mostima again later. Executor surprisingly was able to tank both mortar hits and kill the Pathfinder Sagittarius. Now all I need to do was to hold the center lane until Mostima was ready to be deployed again. Enforcer was deployed slightly forward to tank all the mortar shots and ensure Mostima's survivability. Aren unfortunately met his demise, but Mostima clutched the win. GA4 introduced the main mechanic of Guide Ahead, which is taking control of the Gelato Stop, where enemies can replenish their special ammo. And to prevent this, I need to take control of the Gelato Tower. This was another tough stage due to the sheer number of Pathfinder mortars and Sagittarius present. My first attempt was a total mess and I didn't know what I was doing. The problem here is that Enforcer just keeps on dying, and it doesn't help that his skill does not do a single digit of damage. There were a few attempts where I tried Fiammetta again, but that turned out to be a waste of time because her skill 3 only tickled the Pathfinder mortars. After a few more tries, I once again stuck, so I brought back Aryn. From my numerous trial and error in the past hour, I found out this tile above the gelato stop is the safest place to deploy Mostima because she is out of range of all the special attacks and covers the most amount of ground tiles. Aryn was deployed right next to Mostima to deliver some arch damage to the Pathfinder mortars. I deployed Enforcer to stall the enemies, but he didn't survive. Towards the end, I slightly panicked because Mostima was stunned for a brief second because I lost the gelato tower, but her skill 3 killed the last 3 enemies. GA5 introduced the Pathfinder Jump Troopers, and they can do a lot of damage to the gelato stops, and I need to kill them all quickly. From this point on, I always have a 4th Laterano operator because I expected the later stages would be impossible to clear with just 3. Aryn's skill 2 was very effective against the Pathfinder mortars, but his long downtime made it hard for him to keep up. I switched Aryn for XCI, which is the closest I can get to lore accurate because Limwen is XCI's sister after all. For the opening of my last attempt, I deployed Mostima and XCI together to take care of the early wave of mobs, and sacrificed Enforcer to draw fire away from the gelato stop. I was hoping that Exu would make a dent on the Pathfinder mortars, but still, physical damage can't do anything against these guys. I am proud, however, seeing XCI's skill was timed perfectly just as the Pathfinder Jump Troopers spawned in. Overall, GA5 was not as bad as GA4.
Oof, finally.
GA6 introduced a new enemy known as the Pathfinder Dessert Vendor that spawns exploding snack carts. These guys were tough to crack, and even Mostima needed a lot of hits to kill them. The food carts that they spawn are so small that they are easy to miss when you are in the heat of battle. Initially, I thought by placing XCI on the tile above the gelato stop would make a great idea, since her skill 3 would allow me to take over the gelato stop quickly. That was indeed true, but XCI could not attack the dessert vendor until it moved into her range, which at that point was way too late. So instead, I deployed Mostima on this tile so that her skill 3 range could hit the dessert vendor. If done correctly, the timing of Mostima's attacks and the explosion of the gelato stop could be lined up perfectly to deal extra arch damage to the dessert vendor and inflict stun. Enforcer died early on the run, but XCI ensured no Pathfinder soldiers reached the top blue box. I deployed Executor right next to the caster spawn to weaken them and ease the pressure off on Mostima.
Oh, finally.
GA7 turned out to be the perfect stage for Fiammetta, all thanks to this tile. The opening was a little tight on the DP, but once I passed the first wave, I activated Fiammetta's skill, and this side of the map was plain sailing. Now, the next problem is the Jump Troopers and the Pathfinder Nuncio on the right side. XCI skill 3 works really well for this task, but the only problem is to time it correctly. My XCI skill 3 has 20 SP upon deployment, and that gives her 18 seconds to activate her skill. But the gelato stop grants her 1 SP every second, and that caused her skill to activate too early and ended just as the Jump Trooper spawned in. To add salt to injury, the most unbelievable thing happened. At least I know this strategy works, so I tried again and successfully cleared GA7.
Yes!
Now it's time for the big boss himself, Andoyan. Immediately, this stage opens up with some very aggressive flow of enemies. My squad did not last long before all of them got wiped out. I was able to get in a few hits on Andoyan, but everything went downhill really quickly. I tried to at least get through Andoyan's first phase, but that too proved to be too difficult, and I went back to the drawing board. Let's look at the bigger picture. What is a church's biggest enemy? Googling this question doesn't give me a suitable answer, but I just remembered that the Sancta and the Sarkas have a deep hatred towards each other. So I made myself a Sarkas team. Don't ask why Kalsid is here, she's important. Monster has the look of a demon, and the average Laterano priest would call it 1 too. Obviously, not all of the Sarkis operators are here, but this team should be enough. I started by deploying Vigna and Kalsid to clear the first wave. Monster was deployed on the left side to tank Andoyan's special bullets. He did not survive, but he'll be back. Once I got close to 36 DP, I swapped out Vigna for Modrak, and she will stay there for the entire duration of the run. Monster was once again deployed on the left side to spread the joy of true damage, while Vigna and Midnight provided some assistance and acted as mid shields for the sweeping attack. That ended his first phase. Next, Monster was once again deployed on the right side to deliver the final blow. And there were only desert vendors left, and they too have been sent to meet their maker.
Alright, the demons have eradicated the church.
So, can you clear guide ahead with lore accurate operators? Yes, under specific conditions. It is possible to do this challenge from GA1 to GA7, and if we have all of the 4 operators. This is no doubt the most difficult lore accurate challenge I have done so far, due to the lack of operators. But it does allow me to use operator that I rarely used and never used before, like Fiametta, which I found her to be quite hard to use without any sort of healing. Yes, she's hot, but man, I did not enjoy using her. Mostima on the other hand was the real MVP of this challenge. Her skill 3 saved me many times, and her arch damage was very valuable. Enforcer's pushing ability did help a little bit by stalling enemies despite dealing no damage. But it definitely feels like he's out of his element, being used mostly as a blocker. Finally, Executor was disappointing. His skill 2 takes too long, and his skill 1 looks good on paper, but in application it is very underwhelming. At the end of the day, we all know that the main star of this event is not the operators, but the soundtrack. Dubstep Angelic Choir has no right to be this good. As always, what would you do differently if you're doing this challenge? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!